All right, let's get rolling, Mike. Good morning,
Let's do it.
everybody. Welcome to the 2023 State of Texting. Thank you for joining us. And we will get rolling here. I'm Martin Payne. I'll be your co-host. I'm CEO of TextUs, and I'm joined with my partner in crime here.
Hey, everybody. I'm Michael. I'm a growth marketing manager here at TextUs, and I'm going to be kind of manning the Q&A a little bit here, as well as providing some color commentary. So yeah, excited that everyone's here.
Really hope that you guys will interject with questions early and often. It makes things more fun rather than hearing me and Mike just kind of blather on without your input throughout the webinar. So please ask your questions, fire them off early, and keep them going throughout. But we really look forward to spending this next 30 or 40 minutes with you. So a little bit about TextUs. I know a lot of you use TextUs out there, so you already know us, so pardon the introduction and the commercial, but context here I think is important in terms of setting the table for the information that we'll be sharing. Our mission at TextUs is to really allow our users to have engaging conversations with their stakeholders, which can be prospects, candidates, employees, and consumers. And we're really in this at TextUs to allow our users to just get to the pinnacle of their job performance as far as communications go. And the way we do that is through our strategy. We invest a lot in just knowing SMS, in ways of innovating. We don't just come from the SMS world. We have a lot of folks who do come from the SMS world. We have people who come from other marketing technologies as well. And we try to bring that collective mindset and experience to bear in achieving our mission. We also are just huge believers in empowering our employees to do their best work in service of our mission. It makes for happy customers. It makes for happy employees. And then we also we like to reward our stakeholders through superior operational and financial performance. We're just very mindful and try to be very good stewards of the resources that we have in service to the mission, as well as in service to those who have entrusted us with those resources. So business challenges that we see in terms of how customers will partner with us and use us. See a lot of recruiting. We have always seen a lot of recruiting. We see more given that the labor shortage that the country has seen now for the last couple of years. Distributed workforce management, we've always been strong there. We have a tendency to get used, as you might imagine, with mobile workers who are on the move, not in front of a computer. So SMS is a great way to keep those workers engaged, informed, and on time. We also get used for sales and marketing. And we'll talk a bit in a couple of slides about just how much more productive SMS is in engaging consumers in particular. We're really talking about more B2C transactions here than we are B2B. B2B email still tends to be the dominant mode. Email and Zoom tend to be the dominant modes of communication within B2B, but with B2C, we're definitely seeing a trend towards SMS for sure as being the dominant mode there, because no one wants to check email or phones anymore. Supply chain, probably not a surprise, given that we've been talking about supply chain bottlenecks for the last couple of years. We get used a lot within supply chain and distribution, leasing and property management for similar reasons as sales and marketing. Leasing and property management are sales and marketing motions as far as real estate goes. Same with hospitality and event marketing. And probably the most surprising of all is we were pretty involved in the recent elections here in terms of voter engagement. So pretty broad set of use cases here that have informed our perspective. And we look forward to sharing those with you. So TextUs, how do we play in your tech stack? So we've got 3 apps. We have a web app, we have a Chrome extension that sits on top of your CRM or ATS or HRIS that works in conjunction with those systems. And then we have a mobile app. Our users are recruiters, they're operations managers, sales reps, marketers, predominantly. We have some others as well. And the key functions that we provide you are a message inbox, campaign management tools, messaging automation, user analytics, user management and compliance. That's really important, easy to ignore, but very important, as well as contact and opt-out management. I say it's important because SMS is more tightly regulated than the email world. And so you definitely want to have those things in place there. And we work seamlessly with your existing stack. We integrate with or get embedded inside of your CRM and ATS or HRIS. We exchange data bidirectionally with those systems. And then we're also a very good supplement to other channels, such as email, phone, and chat. Macro trends that favor texting. Texting's just much more personal at the end of the day. And because it is personal, people just have a tendency to engage with it more. The other thing too is texting volume. Texting just isn't as heavily used, which is just so nice, right? It's about 11% of emails volume. And on top of that, the percentage of spam and texting is so much lower than email. Email's about 50% spam. We all kind of know that because we just live it on a daily basis. You kind of dread opening your email inbox, but when you look at your text threads, there's a bit of intrigue there because you just know it's going to be more engaging and a bit more intimate because the sources are just, they're better stewards, if you will, of that medium. There's just less spam. And part of that is because there's a decent amount of regulation there through the FCC with an act called the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, called TCPA. It does say telephone. SMS is part of your telephone. Therefore, we fall under that regulation. I will tell you, though, that the ecosystem, mobile carriers, SMS providers, the folks that form the infrastructure for SMS, I actually think do a very good job of putting policies and things of the like to regulate good behavior within the ecosystem. So hats off to them for doing that to keep a clean ecosystem there. SMS is a live medium. Consumers just prefer talking to real people versus bots. And you know, there's still there is a little bit of bots at work within texting, but predominantly it's still a live medium. There's a human on the other end of that more often than not. Almost all SMS messages are read compared to about 20% of emails. And on average, it takes minutes to respond to text versus hours for email. And then we've got about, you know, anywhere from 8 to 10x higher response rate. This is an aggregation of data we pull from all over the web. You've probably seen this before in various contexts, but I say that just to know that, you know, we didn't make this stuff up.
Yeah, and Martin, something interesting to touch on of just seeing SMS as a live medium. And, you know, we'll have some slides later on that hint at data of response rates of one-to-one messaging versus, you know, maybe automated messaging. And I think, you know, moving into 2023, a mixture of both is really kind of where you want to sit with large campaign messages as well as one-to-one. So that's really interesting. Just wanted to hit on a quick question as we were talking about, you know, TextUs in general. We got a great question on, you know, if we don't want to integrate with a CRM and just want to have the site as a standalone product, do you guys have a site for that? Answer is definitely yes. You can use TextUs standalone, just textus.com. It doesn't have, we definitely tout our integrations with a ton of CRMs and ATS systems, but you can use the product standalone as well. So,
way to go, guys. Whitney. Thank you for breaking the ice. Brave stuff.
Awesome.
We've got one from Avery too.
Nice.
Two-hole hitter. I like it. Where does the 98% read rate come from, and how can you tell who's reading? Generally speaking, you can't tell who's reading. Although, you know, you do get read receipts, if you will, if you're tapping into Android-specific messaging API or Apple iMessenger specific API, but you know, you will get read receipts there because you can actually see it in those inboxes, but that's really the extent of it. To my knowledge, they don't make it available to third-party developers and software providers such as us.
Yeah, I think that 98% came from like a survey that was conducted from the source that we pulled on business to community, I want to say. It's more of like a survey answer.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I just take a poll of my own family, we're a family of 5. You know, there's 4 of us where, you know, they read every single message that comes in. And then we have 1 person who will not be named, who does not read every single message. So in my family, it's actually more like 80%, but there you go.
That's good. Looks like another one just came up. Martin, do you want to answer that or save it for a couple slides down?
Why don't we answer? We're Q&A mode, and we've got a good rhythm.
Man,
going, so I don't want to interrupt it.
Loving it.
Can you send out text campaigns through the platform? Absolutely. You can send text campaigns out through the platform. You can also send out smaller text campaigns using the Chrome extension as well. As you might imagine, the Chrome extension it has less real estate, and so you're just not going to be able to send out as many messages there. Love the questions, guys. Keep them coming.
Yeah, seriously, this is great. So before we get into the slides that have the majority of the data on them, I would like to touch on a little bit how we got there. So we pulled from a couple different sources, you know, from our products, from the TextUs product, matched with an internal survey that we ran to over 250 customers. And you can see all the industries here of the 10, you know, we just pulled 10 industries, but TextUs obviously serves more than that. And so, yeah, we used a combination of this survey as well as some great data that we were able to pull through the product. So that's where this data is coming from. And next slide's talking a little bit about where we are in 2022. You know, so the SMS market's valued at over 5 billion in 2020 and is going to reach 24 billion by 2028, which is basically a compound growth rate 20% into 2028. And you know, we're seeing it at TextUs as well, as we're growing 2x the market rate. So all that to say is I don't think it's a surprise to anyone here that texting is kind of the next frontier, and more industries are picking up on it. So you know, it was a good year for texting, and we expect 2023 to be the same. So yeah, exciting stuff.
We have questions hot off the press from Mr. Anonymous or Ms. Anonymous. I don't know because they're anonymous. Will integration with C-Relate or Crelate, I'm actually not sure how to pronounce that. My apologies to the company. Will it ever be on the list? We're actually talking about that right now and planning out our roadmap for next year. And C-Relate is definitely in consideration for being added to the integration list. Message or question from Carolyn, is there a way to remove opted out phone numbers or those that are landlines? Great question, Carolyn. I'm glad you asked. We automatically will remove opt-outs. So as soon as someone types in stop, that person gets added to our opt-out list, and they will not be messageable again until they've opted in through some other mechanism, which, you know, happens from time to time. And those that are landlines, Carolyn must be a user of SMS, because this is coming from seasoned usage, if you will, of texting in general. The number one reason for failed deliveries of SMS messages is because you've uploaded a contact list and there's no way to know which phone numbers are not textable. And the preponderance of phone numbers that are not textable are actually landlines. And so we have put in place something, I'm not sure if others have, but we have put in place something that will identify landlines that have not been text enabled. And we just filter those out of any kind of campaigns that you send out, so that your delivery rates that go up because the failure rates go down. You don't send any signals to the policemen and policewomen of the SMS ecosystem. And generally speaking, you just run a tight ship from an SMS perspective. So we do landline filtering. And it's, it's just good practice.
Yeah, looks like there's a ton of great questions coming in. This one from Kate's really great. Can you restrict days and times of when you receive text? I don't know if that was when you receive text or when you send text. From a send standpoint, you can restrict days and times. You can also schedule text to go out in certain days and times. Martin, from a receive standpoint, I'm not sure if that's from somebody that's opting in, if they're opting in for certain times, but from send times, I know.
Yeah, in terms of you being a user of texting software, well, TextUs specifically, because I think that's how the question is intended. We do not limit the times when you receive it, but the times when you send and when your contact receives it, like Mike said, we do restrict that if you want. It's a setting that you can set.
Yeah, up to you.
All right, so communicating effectively. More than half of businesses say texting is the best way to communicate. And the other insight here is 64% of TextUs customers use texting multiple times a day. We'll show you a little bit more granular data towards the end of the presentation in terms of how it gets used throughout the day. But the organizations that we surveyed here, texting is the most effective in their opinion. But that being said, phone and email are still important. And so I think this highlights the fact that texting can be a predominant mode of communication, and it's good and pretty efficient for ongoing engagement. But I mean, there's just times when you just got to get on the phone, right? And you got to go with live, old-fashioned synchronous communications, whether it be phone or Zoom. So it's not the end all be all. Texting response rates. This is where, when used properly, texting really kicks it into another gear. One-to-one conversational texts have a higher average response rate of 67%, whereas mass campaign texts have a 34% response rate. But the overall average response rate that we're seeing of late is about 49%, just under 49%. And by the way, we'll talk a little bit more specifically about this later, but it's not that conversational is good and campaigns are bad, or vice versa. When used in conjunction with one another, you can actually optimize your contact engagement rate, and that's actually what we would recommend. It is just super efficient to send out mass campaign texts at the top of your funnel, whether it's a candidate engagement funnel, whether it's the top of your sales and marketing funnel. You might send out mass campaigns to your distributed workforce because you just have to get information out there very quickly. And so some of these campaigns are designed to elicit a response. Some of these campaigns are actually sent out for information only. And so you would naturally expect to have a lower response rate there, because campaigns serve a purpose, they serve a certain use case, and it's not necessarily to drive the highest response possible. When you use campaigns in conjunction with conversations, the campaigns will convert to a conversation at the right point in the journey. And once they convert to a conversation, of course, you would expect the conversational texting to have a higher response rate there. That's why, we share this information to just, one, make you aware of that, but two, to also let you know that there's a time and a place for campaigns, and there's a time and a place for conversations. And at that right point in time, you do want to flip it from a mass text to a one-to-one text to really get to the optimum engagement level or response rate that you see there, which is almost 50%, which is kind of, it's very cool, actually.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, as a marketer that still uses email majority and in my day-to-day, I think at TextUs we start to glance over response rates being this high, but I mean it is crazy once you compare this to email response rates and click rates. Being, if you have 1% to 2%, it's like a good day. So yeah, these numbers are just always so great to see, I think.
We have a question as it relates to campaigns. Can you send images as a text campaign, or include them, I would assume, in a text campaign? It depends on your provider. or the software that you use. Given the use cases that we get used in, so as I mentioned, we get included in candidate sourcing, candidate placement, worker placement, in consumers, in the buying cycle for consumers. And in those use cases, images are actually quite helpful in terms of just conveying information about, hey, you're considering taking this assignment at some other location. You've never been to that location. What does that location look like? An image is super helpful there. If you're a consumer looking to buy something from a company, you might want to have a look at it and see what that image looks like of that thing that you're looking at buying. So we include images in our campaigns, and they get received generally very well in certain verticals. In other verticals, actually, they don't. They can hurt you. And so we'll point that out later. Is there a max number of outreach that can be in a campaign? I'm sure there is. We haven't hit it yet, or I should say our customers and users haven't hit it yet. So I'm going to claim ignorance here, but it's a huge number there that you can send out to contacts. And then, do candidates have to opt in to messages to get added to a campaign? That is a great question. According to the law, and what I mean by that is the TCPA Act that I had referred to earlier, messages about jobs are not considered solicitations. Solicitations are more or less messages that are marketing in nature, and they're trying to market the purchase of a product or service. And the law does not consider a job someone trying to sell a product or a service. So as far as the law goes, there has not been a case that we know of yet where, under TCPA, you would be in hot water. That being said, the general rule among mobile carriers and SMS providers in their acceptable use policies is that they would require an opt-in. So we always tell people that, generally speaking, it's good to get an opt-in. And it's a bit riskier if you're in the recruiting space of reaching out without an opt-in. So it's just good practice to get an opt-in, is what I'd say, generally speaking. Texting response rates. So a breakdown of what response rates look like by industry. And this is only, we've shared a subset here. We have other industries as well where we've got varying response rates. But in this sampling, financial services, apparently word about money gets responded to at a very, very high rate. It's almost 88%. Real estate, surprisingly, clocking in here at second at 63%, and then healthcare about 46%. Apparently news about one's health isn't as important as property or money. I kid, of course, because not actually most of the data here, or a lot of the data I should say is related to workforce management within healthcare. And recruiting within healthcare. It's not just about patient communications. So some additional data here in terms of response rate by industry. And you can see we've got a few other industries in here, but the response rates, generally speaking, are actually quite high. And even in the staffing space, where there's quite a bit of what I call more top of funnel, where you're just trying to gauge interest among potential candidates for a job opening that you have. I'm talking about the recruiting aspect of the staffing world. Naturally, you're going to get a lot of no's. I'm not interested. You're going to get quite a few yeses too, I'd imagine. So even in a use case like the staffing world, to see a 45% response rate when there's a fair amount of prospecting that goes on there, is a pretty high number. But you can see the response rates here, just generally speaking, are quite high across verticals. There is some variation across verticals, but generally speaking, it's quite high regardless of the vertical that you're in.
Yeah, and the only one to touch on here, I think, from my end is, real estate. On the last slide was we were just pulling from real estate. In this slide, we're pulling from real estate, leasing, the broader spectrum there, as well as staffing. Within that 45%, that's pulling in multiple verticals under staffing as well. So just some color there.
Yep. And Josh, with a timely question about healthcare staffing, sometimes we get couples and friends that travel together, and it would be easier to have a group chat where you have that option soon. Yeah, that's a great question. So we get asked quite a bit, well, why can't we have a group text through software such as TextUs? And the answer is the SMS providers that we use to access is our gateway to the mobile carriers actually don't allow it. And so the way around that is to add a chat overlay. It's an additional channel. Chat is just a different means of communicating with people. And if we had a chat channel, we could allow group conversations within chat because we don't have to go through the mobile carriers. Sorry, more specifically, we don't have to go through the SMS protocol to do it. We would actually be using TCP/IP at that point. And that is also something under strong consideration for our roadmap, is to add a chat overlay to our SMS community messaging capability that would allow some added benefits on top of SMS, like group messaging. Question from Anne: should the opt-out option be included in the text message we send, or is that automatically added by the system? We provide the option, and many software out there, many texting softwares out there do allow you to configure an automated message that will get sent out with the first message that you send to a contact that says something to the effect of reply with stop to opt out of text messages. We've all seen it in the text messages that we get from businesses, and TextUs and other texting solutions out there will allow you to do that.
And Kate's question from earlier, Martin, was restrict when clients are texting them back. So she says that we have some clients that will text all night if we allow it.
That's a great feature request. I like that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, we don't allow you to do that, but we're huge believers in work-life balance here, Kate. So we have it for our employees. We want it for you guys too. We will take that to the product team as a feature request. Thank you. So a deeper look into the data. We are big believers here in quality. We like quantity too, because quantity of messages helps you reach more people, but we like to see conversion. Once you've reached those people, we like to see conversion of candidates. We like to see conversion of consumers down your funnel. And so we take a deeper look at some of these dimensions, if you will, that help with that conversion. And message length, we have found time and again, if you write your recipients a shorter message, there's a much higher chance that you're going to get a response. So if you look here, if you keep it really short, 0 to 50 characters, you're looking at an average of an 80% response rate. It goes down a little bit to about 68% if you're between 50 and 100 characters. But boy, does it really take a hit once you go 100 characters and above. And I think this passes the smell test too, because I think mostly we as humans and users of our phones, I mean, we just like shorter text messages. I think that medium is just designed for short format communications. The last thing you want to do is read an essay through your text messaging. It's just tough to do. And that's the data plays out here. It just gives us a more specific break off point for when messages get responded to a lot less. And so if you stay 100 or below, according to this latest data, you're going to see 2 times or more greater response rate by virtue of doing so.
Yeah, and just as a best practice there, I think it's important to edit. Like when you craft your initial text and when your team is crafting text, really making sure that you edit and refine so you do get below that 100 character limit is, I think you're going to see a huge jump in response.
And as you might imagine, the answer changes depending on your vertical, in the industry that you're in. Different verticals, different industries have different use cases. The nature of the conversations are different. So the message length that will be tolerated or not tolerated is different. And as you can see in transportation, which is the kind of the brown colored bar there, they're more tolerant of longer messages. As a matter of fact, you don't see the big drop off until you get to 150 characters or beyond. Folks that see a steeper drop off are in telecommunications, and so you see that steep drop off after 100 characters. Another group of users that hangs in there is in the staffing space, the IT professional segment of staffing. They are the light green bar that you see there. They'll hang in there actually until about 200 characters. So they're a bit more patient, probably because of the nature of the work and the nature of the information that needs to be communicated. So as you can see, it does differ quite a bit by industry. And one of the things that we like to do here at TextUs is we're, as you can tell by this chart and this presentation, we're a little nerdy here. We like our data. I am chief nerd just in terms of, because the data I think is interesting and it provides insights. But we like to share our nerdiness with our customers, and we will have QBRs where we'll break down this data specifically just for you in your business, and we'll tell you how you compare against your compadres in the rest of your industry. I'm just scanning through our question list here. So it looks like Lion has a question about opt-outs. So is there a way to opt out a phone number already uploaded? Yes, absolutely. You can. And more specifically, the question is, can you opt them out without them receiving a "you have been opted out" message? I believe so. I don't know specifically off the top of my head, but I think you can set it up so that if they reply "stop," that is the only message that they receive. And Lion, if there's if I didn't get your question right, I mean, feel free to ask it again. But yeah, there is a way to set that up. And then Heather has a question here about having run a large text campaign where we're asking the context to schedule interviews. We encountered a major delivery limitation due to 10 DLC. We are registered. How do we avoid that in the future? Without knowing, we would have to dig in and figure out what the root cause is there. 10 DLC, while the intent was good to try to keep our SMS ecosystem clean, there are other layers of other mechanisms, I should say, that add layers of protection in there. And without getting to root cause as to what that is, I don't know. Could be a throughput limit. It could be that there was something in the message that triggered message failures. That has definitely been on the rise. There are filters as we send messages through SMS providers and through mobile carriers. Those filters have been tuned, and they've been tuned to look out for certain things. And so if there's a trigger in the message that triggers the filter, that will also block messages from going out. And given that we don't get the answers, meaning the triggers are not published by the mobile carriers, sometimes it just takes trial and error to figure out what's going on and some triangulation. So I don't know, Heather, but you're not alone. We have helped others here. It just takes a little bit of time sometimes because, like I said, they don't publish, the filtering algorithms, if you will.
Yeah, and
Miranda,
Heather, Martin,
go ahead,
I've made a note here, Heather, just to make sure I make a note and have support follow up as well, so we can maybe start working on that. Yeah.
Miranda asked a good question about emojis. Do they help? When you're sending out your first campaign message to a contact that has not received a message from you before, generally speaking, emoji response rate, messages with emojis don't perform as well. Emojis tend to be a little bit more personal, and they seem to work better once you've established a bit of a rapport, and you've seen some engagement from the contact. And then Cassie, good question. Where can I find what ATS systems you guys can integrate with? Mike can point you to the webpage where we've got those posted.
Yeah, I'll send that integration page over to you right now.
And then how can a contact opt back in if they've requested opt out in the past? Typically, it's through some other channel. So if you've ever opted out of an email, for example, because that's we're a lot more familiar with that. I opt out of emails all the time. If you go back to their website and fill in another lead form, that'll opt you back in. Or if you can go back to their opt-in center, where you can, there are different levels of opt out and opt in. Where they give you a menu more or less of things that you can opt into, that would be another way. All right, texting response time. So this is median response time in minutes. Median is typically pretty close to an arithmetic average here. So you can read this as average too. It's fast. It's like 10-ish minutes, just above 10 minutes throughout the week. And then you're looking at, about 30 minutes on a Saturday and 45 minutes on a Sunday, as you might imagine. This is, I think, one of the big reasons why people just love using texting is because you get a near real-time response. It's literally in minutes. So this is a look at, how responses occur throughout the week. And so if you take a week's worth of messages, and you assign a percentage to what percentage of messages get sent on Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, what percentages of messages that are received get received Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. It's pretty uniform throughout the week. And it looks like about 95% of messages get sent and received during the weekday, as you might imagine. That makes sense. Glad people are maintaining a work-life balance there. And even throughout the week, there's a pretty even distribution, especially when you're looking Monday through Thursday, of messages that get sent or received during the primary work days of the week. Friday, it goes down a little bit, but not by a whole lot. So another reason, and it probably makes a ton of sense, people are just always, well, if you're using software like TextUs, you're kind of in our software all day long. You're in our software all day long because your contacts are on their phones all day long, and they're always responding to you. So the fact that they're always responding to you means you're probably always responding to them, which means you're probably in our software quite a bit. And so I think that's a big part of what's driving the behavioral pattern that you see here. This looks at hour of the day by aggregating the data across really all of our users. I won't bore you with the gory detail here. I think the primary takeaway here is it's starting at about 9 o'clock. That's where it says hour of the day 9. And I think we're Central or Eastern time here on average. You see about 9% of your messages are sent on average at 9 o'clock. and it continues to rise through 10, 11, 12, and then it dips a little bit in the afternoon. But the primary message here is during the working day, messages get sent all throughout the working day. And it's, like I said, it's because of the dynamic that I described earlier. Your contacts are on their phones throughout the day, therefore you're sending messages throughout the day. And it's kind of the beauty of just the texting medium in general. Jenny says, I love TextUs. Thank you. However, I'm able to receive images, which can be a blessing and a curse, but I'm not able to text an image. Is there a setting that I need to look into? You should be able to send an image when you're just in using your inbox. So just a one-to-one conversation. So we enable it there. If you want to send it out through campaigns, there's some additional work that we've put into the product called Campaigns Pro, where we add some features that allow you to send images and branded shortened links in your campaigns so that you can just send campaigns to greater effect. That's a premium feature that we offer. So I would look into that if you want to send images and branded shortened links within campaigns. In particular, branded shortened links are very important because if you send a bit.ly link, that's obviously a link shortener, but it's a third-party link shortener. That gets blocked by about half the carriers. So branded shortened links are actually, it's a little thing, but it's one of those little things that are important. Heather has received the dreaded error that says you have sent over the daily limit for your 10 DLC brand. We have a workaround for that and some insights that will help you get around that. So that's frustrating, I know, because you got a job to do. But yeah, Heather, if you get in touch with your account manager, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to presume you were a TextUs customer, but honestly, even if you're not, give us a call. We'll share our insights with you. Oh, I stole my own thunder on this. And so this is the percentage of messages received by hour of the day. And you receive them all throughout the day, which is why, like I said, you send messages all throughout the day because you have conversations that are happening all throughout the day, which is pretty cool. Looking forward to 2023, we just see the expansion of just usage across various industries. We saw quite a bit of expansion in 2022, and we just think that it's going to continue into 2023 because I just think more and more businesses are realizing the effectiveness of texting, and I think the word is just getting out. The other thing we look forward to is just helping our customers and our users blend the use of campaigns and one-to-one messaging together in a way that's super effective. And if you want a little bit more there, this is a link that if you click on the link here in the presentation, it'll take you to some best practices in terms of campaign management. And then reach plus conversion. So given that SMS is more regulated than email, from a spam perspective, the quality of the message is arguably more important than the quantity. And you know, that's something that we really, like I said, we're just we're students of texting in a way. We're kind of nerdy that way, and we just we really are interested in helping you guys become the best texters you possibly can. And quality of the message is super important there. In addition to giving you a tool that allows you to reach a lot of contacts, we want you to convert a lot of contacts too. And so quality of the message is really important. So I say that because we've just seen quite a bit of growth in campaigns in 2022. This data is a little bit dated. It's back as of August of 2022. It's because I pulled it from a presentation I gave at Staffing World. So forgive me, this is a staffing specific data that you're seeing here. But I think it rings true across all the industries. I mean, campaign usage is just flat out growing. As it turns out, our users are actually pretty smart to do that, because if you look at the next slide, The reason why campaign usage is growing is because they're seeing increased engagement from contacts. And so the green bar is the number of engaged contacts among our staffing customers over the course of time. So campaigns have been effective in getting more and more contacts engaged. And as these contacts get engaged, they get further engaged because then our users will flip them into conversations, one-to-one conversations, which really improves the conversion rate that you're after, whether it be applications, interviews, et cetera. There is a price to be paid. So your conversion rate, which is the yellow line, goes down. So your conversion rate suffers a little bit, but overall, on the whole, as long as the green bars keep going up, it's a positive trade-off. And so we've got pretty smart users out there, and there's a reason why campaigns have increased in popularity. Just remember to not overuse the campaigns. There's a balance. We recommend among our staffing customers generally 60-40. I think 60-40 is probably a pretty good rule of thumb for sales and marketing and other pipeline-centric businesses as well. If you're more in the workforce management or in the distributed workforce management or logistics, you can campaign all day long, right? Because you're really talking to your workers at that point in time. And so if you've got to blast them to get information out there, that's a totally different ballgame. Questions. So from Todd, he said campaigns where I choose the mobile number in my ATS, but a large number end up omitted. And when I check those records, there's a mobile number. However, the campaign sent it to a home or work number instead of the mobile. Is there a flaw in my ATS or is it TextUs? So that's a great question, Todd. So TextUs just, we bumped the phone number up against a repository in the sky, and it's a very well-reputed repository. It's back deep in the infrastructure. And so we're taking whatever data comes from the ATS or the CRM, and we're running it really through that service. And so I mean, the service isn't perfect, obviously, but they do a lot of fact checking to make sure their data is as accurate as possible. So we feel good about the source of the data. A lot of times when we see this issue, it's because the data coming in isn't necessarily clean. So for example, you might get a landline associated with a mobile number in your CRM, even though it's not necessarily a mobile number, or it's just an outdated mobile number, for example. But I would bring this up with support, because I'm giving you the most common reasons as to why that happens, and I want to make sure that we get to the specific root cause of why you're seeing this. So we're happy to work with you more on that, Todd. And then from Manny, images seem to disappear after a certain time. I mainly noticed this on the mobile app. Is this normal? That does not sound normal. We should look into that, but thank you for bringing that up, Manny. One of my favorite slides. So this takes a look at including an image in your first campaign message that gets sent out to contacts, because that first campaign message is important. You're trying to build a pipeline. You're trying to build a pipeline of candidates. You're trying to build a pipeline of consumers or prospects. And as it turns out, imagery in staffing is really helpful, because people typically like to get an image of, hey, if there's a job that's come available, where is this job? What does it look like? There's a good chance I've never been there. So imagery tends to work there. Interestingly, with healthcare, it does not. So start out with a text-only message first. With real estate, as you might imagine, that's a very visually sensitive use case and industry. So imagery tends to work very well there. And then last but not least is education. So we get used a fair amount in the application process with higher education, and what the campus looks like and things of that nature do tend to be pretty important there. So imagery tends to perform very well on the first send. So in summary, texting is now business critical. It's used in many industries across different departments. and effectively used to communicate in different use cases. And so the use cases and industry coverage is greater now. Texting is no longer a nice to have, it's a need to have, because it's the dominant messaging channel for business to consumer and business to worker. So in terms of just overall the state of texting, as an industry, it's very, very healthy, becoming healthier and more heavily used. You guys have been awesome, by the way. Just in terms of the questions that you've asked throughout the day.
Yeah, it makes it way more fun.
The next question's from a friend of mine, Derbs. How you doing, Derbs? Thanks for attending. Have you received interest from healthcare companies from TextUs? Do we provide confidential capabilities? Very astute question, I might add. We do a ton of business with healthcare companies, and we mostly get used when it comes to workforce management there. So if you think about scheduling nurses for certain shifts, that's the dominant use case there. We do get used for communications out to patients as well. Typically, it's when those communications don't involve PHI. And so when it involves PHI, we would recommend something that can be encrypted, like a chat or something like that. And that's because SMS just inherently is unencrypted, not by choice through software providers like TextUs. It's really just inherent to the protocol and the way it travels over mobile carriers. It is clear text. It is not encrypted through the network infrastructure. But good question, Derbs. Thank you. Ryan, when the text removes an email address, is that TextUs or your own IT security? That is definitely your own IT security. And good on them for doing it, because that is private information. And they probably know it's unencrypted over the SMS network. All right, we'll hang out for a little bit more in case there are any other questions. Going once, going twice.
Martin, if I can interject too,
yeah.
If there's any other questions that are coming in, just in general housekeeping. So we are sending a recording of this webinar out as soon as it's uploaded to YouTube. So hopefully this afternoon, in the next hour or two. And yeah, if you have any questions in general, feel free. If it's a support question, best email is going to be support@textus.com. If it's a question about any of this data, or to speak more with Martin or get any more information, you can send it to marketing@textus.com. And then the final thing, the next slide, Martin, is just we have our actual state of texting report available on our website. It's not gated, so you don't need to submit your information to download it. It's available to anyone. So we'll send that link in the email as well.
You guys have been awesome. That was, I think, the most questions we've gotten in a webinar this year for sure. So thank you for spending nearly an hour with us. Thank you for leaning into the discussion and making it interesting. And we wish you and yours just the happiest of holidays and end of the year. Thank you all.
Excellent. Thanks, y'all.